I have to start it again. Okay. Very good. So I'm gonna start all over again. um, I don't see the screen on this, but on your screen you should see their chat box. So if you have any questions, you just type it in because we cannot hear you from on this side. Um, if you do have any other participant beside yourself, um, you should also mute so that we don't hear the sounds from your side. So uh, that's also, if you can check your sound right now. If you don't hear us, please type in the chat box as well, so our team will take care of that. Um, this morning, are we? Everything's okay? This morning, our webinar is going to be on awaken your inner power, uh, contem- contemplative presence in the care of self and others. I will introduce to you. You heard him before. Give you some instructions earlier, but I like to introduce him, Dr. Danny Yeung. He is a head of the international development and senior faculty of the Accelerated Experiential Dynamics Psychotherapy Institution. Um, he is a trainer and a supervisor of the postgraduate mental health professionals in Hong Kong, China, United States, and Canada. Dr. Danny Yeung is an assistant professor in the Department of Family and Community Medicine with cross appointment at Department of Psychiatry in the Faculty of Medicine at University of Toronto. Dr. Yeung is the lead author of Rainbow After, Psychological Trauma and Accelerated Experiential Dynamic Psychotherapy, one of the original trauma treatment manuals published in Chinese. He is a co-author Portrait of the Soul, a study of 9 personality styles, currently in its 6th edition, together with Dr. Diana Fosha. He is also a co-author in chapter and case book of psychotherapy integrations published by the American Psychological Association. Please help me welcome Dr. Danny Yeung.
I take it that you could all see me. And thank you, Emily, for such a probably mouthful, at the same time generous introduction of my experience. It's a pleasure to meet with all of you. As Emily shared with you, I would say about 30 years ago, I'm almost 80% a family physician and then 20% psychotherapist. And now I would say almost 90% of me is actually doing psychotherapy and 10% doing family practice, and the rest of the time I'm teaching elsewhere. And when I was asked to share this webinar with you, I was wondering what kind of topics would be the most suitable, and especially to our settlement workers colleagues, all of which you are doing great work in helping new immigrants, in helping refugees to settle in Toronto and settle in Ontario. And the theme that I came up with is actually called Awakening Your Inner Power, Contemplative Presence in the Care of Self and Others. And today in this particular seminar, I would like to look at 3 things. I mean, the why are we actually speaking about this particular theme, the what uh, of contemplative presence in the care of self and others is, and actually how do we enact this particular um, practice called contemplative presence. So again, the theme being awakening your inner power, contemplative presence in the care of self and others, beginning with the why. Why do we care about this at all? And I have what I've termed what we call the fishbowl problem, which is really a metaphor for ourself in the world. Well, the fishbowl problem, the essence of it is that we, you and I, and all of us are like fishes in a bowl of water and swimming in it. And inevitably, that we will be affected by the nutrients, the contaminants, and all the or any kind of pollutants that may be in the water itself, and eventually we will be influenced and we will be affected somehow by the quality of the water. And if we're talking about a clean bowl of water with sufficient nutrients, then we have healthy fish. But nevertheless, if we are dealing with a polluted, bowl of water with a lot of contaminants, eventually we will develop illnesses and we will develop conditions that will affect both our mental health and our physical health, and hence what I call the fishbowl problem that you and I are dealing with, speaking about yourself, myself, and ourself in the world. Now, what kind of a world are we living in right now? What kind of a world are we being immersed in, just like this particular fish that is in the water? You may be aware of this particular painting called The Scream, which I would say depicts the kind of condition that sometimes we have this feeling that we want to scream because of the world that we are living in. Now, this particular self in the world is actually what I'm citing you is from a British sociologist by the name of Anthony Giddens. In his book Modernity and the Self, he talked about the tribulations or the challenges or the sufferings that we, you and I, as a self, that may be facing in this particular time, this particular era, and this particular moment in time of history. And we are facing four particular risks: that of fragmentation, powerlessness, uncertainty, and commodification. Well, fragmentation simply means, especially when you are speaking, imagining your clients or your consumers that may be needing you to help them to settle in this particularly new country. There are a lot of things that they need to adapt to, because the world they used to live in is no longer the same, because this is a completely different world. And if they're unable to integrate, if they're unable to adapt, and if they're unable to simulate their sense of self, the sense of struggle is at risk of being fragmented and going into a kind of chaos. I remember traveling to Amsterdam with my family last year, and of course, the mindset that I go travel in Amsterdam is that of a tourist, being adventurous, curious, and also in a pleasurable state of mind. With that being said, I still have great difficulty adjusting to the local food. In Amsterdam, everything is fried and everything is salty. I find that very difficult to adapt to. And then at the same time, everybody in the town, in the city, rides on a bicycle. I have not ride a bicycle for a long time, but we rented a bicycle to try and tour around the city. And lo and behold, each particular bicycle has a particular name attached to the bicycle, and the bicycle's name is called the Green Mile. And I thought that was an omen because the Green Mile, if you may or may not know, if you can Google the Green Mile, is actually a film with Tom Hanks speaking about a prisoner on death row. The Green Mile is the last, I would say, length of steps that he or she, who's on death row from the prison cell and going on to the electrical chair. That particular walk is called the Green Mile. And I was riding a bicycle called the Green Mile. And lo and behold, of course, I fell from the bicycle twice while I was in Amsterdam, and I simply just gave up because with my aging bones, I do not want to fracture anything. So therefore, I decided just to walk back from where where I stopped the bicycle to back to the hotel. And I still need a person to come and save me. The bicycle renter actually sent a very young man to come and help me to navigate myself from where I was to back to the hotel. That kind of a navigator, of course, is very much like what all of you folks do so beautifully as a settlement worker, helping them to navigate the culture, to navigate the different places in Toronto or in Ontario. Again, that speaks to not only the potential for fragmentation, the powerlessness sometimes that we feel when we are in a new country. Now, imagining, of course, when I was traveling in Amsterdam, I was in a pleasurable state of mind, with a curious state of mind, and also with an adventurous state of mind. All of these new settlement, maybe new immigrants or refugees, they perhaps came from a place where they felt safe, where they were so used to, but now settling in this new country, sometimes they feel very, they come with a mindset of fear, and sometimes with anxiety, and also trying to escape from perhaps from Syria, a place of trauma. So we're dealing with, again, entering a new world that they need to be helped, and yet their mindset may still be experiencing a sense of powerlessness. And then also the idea of uncertainty. Now, in their old world, perhaps, they have a mental map of where to get things, how the culture, what the norms are. But nevertheless, in this new world that we're living in, okay, now I find that, okay, Nina is requesting to annotate the shared content. During annotation, you cannot control the shared content until you are stopping annotating. So I probably need the help of our technical guy, because let me see if I can go back to the screen before. Okay, approve. Nina can start annotating now. Let me just start to share that screen again. Let me go back. Right. I need to go back to this particular screen. So, right, I'm back to the screen. Thank you. So again, we're talking about uncertainty without the. I'm good. Without a map to navigate in this particular new world. And the worst thing to do, in fact, we in this day and age, in this modern times, is that we are like a commodity. Now, just imagine in the old days, we see patients meaning that a person who's suffering, and then now we're talking about clients. Clients becomes a sense of a business that we're dealing with. But worse, the individuals that we serve now is called consumers. So we, as even settlement workers or any kind of mental health service deliverers, are just delivering a service. We become a commodity. A sense of even our sense of self, it seems our sense of personhood. Once again, we go back to this issue, a potential issue of fragmentation and also disintegration. Again, that is the problem that we are facing with. Now, I would like to share with you a video, just a very short video perhaps, in inviting all of you in response to this particular problem, this fishbowl problem that we are dealing with today. If I may invite you perhaps to perhaps close your eyes or open your eyes if you want to, but find a place where you could be sitting comfortably and simply learn and allowing yourself to settling into the chair as you hear, listen, and watch this particular video. This video that I find is one of the best illustration of what being present is.
Do you think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's given to you. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now. And the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you do nothing else but to cultivate that response through the great gift that this unique day is, if you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. We just think of the weather. And even of the weather, we don't think of all the many nuances of weather. We just think of good weather and bad weather. This day, right now, is unique weather. Maybe a kind that will never exactly in that form come again. The formation of clouds in the sky will never be the same that is right now. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has a incredible story behind their face. A story that you could never fully fathom. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. We all go back so far. And in this present moment, in this day, all the people you meet, all that life from generations and from so many places all over the world flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there is electric light. You turn a faucet and there is warm water and cold water and drinkable water. It's a gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. So these are just a few of an enormous number of gifts to which we can open your heart. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you. That every one of you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your eyes, by your smile, by your touch, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. Then it will really be a good day.
Thank you. If you may draw your attention to what is going on inside your body, especially in your throat, your chest, and your abdomen, it's very likely that you have a sense of openness and also a sense of serenity and a sense of calm. This is one way to cultivate the sense that we may have. Now, again, I would like to welcome new participants who are coming in, and perhaps Nina could mute your mic. Otherwise, it may run the risk of a very high-pitched and ear-deafening feedback. So,
actually, I cannot even hear through the mic, and I had to put my phone.
Oh.
I had to put the phone on because in the computer I could only see your pictures, the video, but I could not hear you at all. So I had to go to the receptionist and ask her to hook me through the phone. So I'm doing two things I'm using. So if it's still bothering you, I can take the speaker off, which I did just now.
I'm good as long as there's no.
Yeah, there's nobody in my room, so you won't get any disturbance. If it's getting disturbance, I'll put the speaker off that time. But right now, I was leaving the speaker on. If it's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Again, going back perhaps into the next slide. When we're speaking about contemplative presence, especially awaken your inner power, what kind of power are we speaking about? Now, according to Rollo May, an existential psychologist with the source in Power and Innocence, a search for the sources of violence, published in New York, 1972 by Norton, he spoke about that there are actually 5 kinds of power: that of manipulative power, exploitative power, competitive power, nutrient power, and integrative power. Now, I'm going to unpack that a little more of these kinds of power. The first being that of the exploitative power. That actually is the, let me just make sure that I did not get the slides right. Yes, the slides are correct. The exploitative power, no, I believe actually this should be the manipulative power as opposed to the exploitative. The manipulative power is that of the most destructive power, as you can see with the picture of Hitler, and that of it identifies power with force, exercised by those who are radically rejected. It has been studied that Hitler's father was highly abusive himself, and in the Third Reich, or in between the First World War and the Second World War, there were a whole lot of, I would say, Germans who felt disenfranchised because they lost the First World War. So in essence, that's, being led by Hitler, they perhaps feel radically rejected, and so is easily subjected to being manipulated. And then there is the abusive power. The manipulative power is potentially abusive, and of course, needless to say, it presupposes and a threat of violence. So my apologies. I believe this should be. Let me retype this properly. So it will not be confusing for people. This is actually exploitative power. You can see both exploitative power.
No. Yes, sorry.
Okay. That you can see Trump and Putin. It's really a power over another. I mean, technically, is now Putin and Trump together have power over many, many people, including you and I, and being influenced by their collusion or conspiracy, and that it was invited by the person's own desperation and anxiety, in particular Trump. He's been bought out by the Russian mafia, and if you're interested to actually trace that, there's an investigative journalist by the name of Craig Unger, who published in the New Republic July 14th, 2017, called Trump's Russian Laundromat. That was when Trump was declaring bankruptcies in his casinos in the Atlantic City. Certainly, there was a whole lot of Russian mafia money, dirty money being laundered and channeled into his whole Trump empire. And as such, he's becoming Putin's puppet. Now, of course, exploitative power is about conning, and there's, of course, these what we call utopian proposals, like Trump's campaign theme, "Make America Great Again." But what we're actually seeing is the gradual dismantling and disintegration, and also an implosion of what we see of the American empire as we see it. So that will be the exploitative power. Third is actually competitive power, is actually power against another. So competitive power, we can also imagine in mind competitions in the Olympics and how we exercise power over or against the other, but it's a much more sublimated and constructive form of exercising power. As such, it is a shift from destructive to constructive power, and certainly it can give zest and vitality to human relationships, and also may bring out the dormant capacities in us when we have visions to help others and to exercise that power in helping other people. And that will be the third kind of power. And then there's the nutrient power, as embodied by one of my deeply reverent or respected world leader, Nelson Mandela. Certainly it is a power for another. So after, if I recall, years and years of being imprisoned as a political prisoner, when he was released, not only did he not retaliate against the apartheid government or any kind of white people, quite to the contrary, he sought to reconcile both the diverse population within South Africa. So it is also the, I would say, similar to good enough parental care or statesmanship at its best. And it is indeed the constructive aspect of political and diplomatic power. And we need a whole lot of this in this world today. And as you're kind of imagining yourself reading in both manipulative power, exploitative power, competitive power, and nutrient power, you can ask yourself, what kind of power are we exercising as we are working with our colleagues, as we are working with the persons and the individuals under our care? And then also there's this, what we call integrative power, which is embodied by both Gandhi and also Martin Luther King. It is really power that is shared with another. It is collaborative power. It ultimately leads to growth for the recipients or the receiving of these individuals who are exercising integrative power. It leads to the growth of a community. It is nonviolent, as opposed to the violence as exemplified by manipulative power. And there's authentic innocence. There's an authentic, genuine vision, as opposed to, let's say, I would say the utopian promise of the con man. There's an authentic innocence that these individuals embody, who has integrative power in a vision for a better future for the community. These are visionaries. Now, those are the 5 powers or 5 kinds of power that Rollo May was speaking about: manipulative, exploitative, competitive, nutrient, and integrative. But there is one more power that came to my mind, in my opinion, that was what we call inspirational power. Now, you may or may not know this particular individual. This individual's name is Albert Schweitzer. He was a German physician who won the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, in the early in the early 20th century. He was a physician. He was both a philosopher. He was a scholar, a Jesus scholar, and also he was a missionary over to Africa. He was particularly inspirational in the sense that he empowers these individuals who inspired others. It is actually empowering other people to do. It is almost like not only are we sharing power, we are injecting, infusing power to the people that we serve. And it's fueled by loving kindness. There's a fundamental philosophy called the reference for life, not just only human beings, not only is all humankind, but it's also any life forms that we encounter, including birds, animals, trees, and all of that. And this particular inspirational power is not only for the community, which is in the here and now, it is actually for the civilization that is in the past, in the present, and for a better future. So it actually transcends time. The here and now community is actually an inspirational power that is inspiring the rest of the generations and future generations beyond themselves, hence the fourth civilization. Now, what about this thing called presence? Now that we understand the power that we need to awaken within us, I certainly hope that the power that is awakened in us, despite the fact that we ourselves sometimes are being commodified and being like a thing, and we tend to have the tendency to do the same for other people, but in the process, we actually could burn out very easily, and we feel alone, and we need to activate the power that I'm hoping individuals, all of us, could actually be awakened to, is that of nutrient power, integrative power, and even inspirational power. And how do we do that? Is actually developing this thing called presence. And one might ask, well, what does a presence actually mean? Presence means being open now to whatever is. This is defined by Dan Siegel, a current neuroscientist who also studied presence and studied mindfulness. And presence could be simply defined, according to him, as simply being open without any preconceptions, without any prejudices, without any fixated ideas, now to whatever that is in front of us, that is being presented to us. That is a form of presence at its most basic form. Now, there's another person there's a level of presence. This is actually wrong. Not a source of Rollo May. I apologize for the source. I will resend the source. Actually, it is by Sherry Jeller. Let me correct that. Sherry Jeller, who, together with Leslie Greenberg and Jeller, Leslie Greenberg being the 2004. Leslie Greenberg being the developer, he's a professor of psychology in York University, still very much alive, and also teaching emotion-focused therapy, not only locally, but also worldwide. And also one of her students, who now is also a clinical psychologist by the name of Sherry Jeller, who practices actually in Toronto. If you Google her, you will be able to find her, actually. And in their book, Therapeutic Presence, I believe, I could actually remember it, in the book Therapeutic Presence, which was published in Washington, D.C. by the American Psychological Association, I believe is 2004, and perhaps my colleagues such as Maria can check for me whether that is the case, whether I got the source correct. there are 5 levels of presence that they speak about. There is physical presence, psychological presence, emotional presence, transpersonal presence, and therapeutic presence. What is physical presence? Physical presence is simply like what you and I do when we see our clients or our consumers or the people that we care about, who we are serving. We have light contact with them, whether it is superficial or small talk, or settling into the room and chairs like what we did when we were watching the video, or when I invited you to become awareness of your own body in the present moment, such as what you may be in contact with your chair. I believe no one is actually lying down as they are listening to this webinar, or maybe perhaps being recorded in the future, someone actually watching it from our website, they may be lying down. So therefore, it is the contact with our environment. Hence, again, is a contact with the other individual that we are serving. We are settling into the environment, into the room, and into the chairs. And we are also being aware of our own body. So it is an internal awareness and also an awareness of the external with another individual, and also awareness of the environment. Secondly, it is psychological presence. By that we mean when we learn to listen to the story of the people, where they come from, the immigrants, the refugees, perhaps what their story was like. I remember working with a patient who was from mainland China, and her being, I was working with her, she was already in her late 50s and early 60s. The reason why she came to see me was because she was depressed and near committing suicide after she was recovering from breast cancer. But being a new immigrant herself, believe it or not, she settled down in Toronto after the 1989 Tiananmen massacre. She was an exchange scholar to Toronto at this time, and right in Toronto, and knowing and hearing and watching what went on in the June 4th incident in China, she and her husband decide to settle down in Toronto as opposed to returning. She actually had a history of being also working in the People's Liberation Army herself, but she rose in the ranks, and later on she became I would say, a very brilliant and also hardworking banker. And she actually settled in working in CIBC, but yet one of the problems prior to her getting breast cancer was that she felt bullied by her colleagues. And so there's an underlying story there of racism and also bullying, which was very painful. And it was rather challenging for me to work with her because initially she speaks only Mandarin and I only speak Cantonese. So I have to practice speaking Mandarin. So people ask me whether I could actually speak Mandarin. I would tell them it is not. The problem is not whether I could speak Mandarin. The problem is whether the people that is hearing me could understand my Mandarin. So and also the kind of model that I work with in psychotherapy, I find it not useful for her. So therefore, I decided simply just to simply throw away my model because I needed to be open and to be present with her. So I simply, what I find the most useful thing is that I gave up my model, throw my book away, and simply learn to listen to her story and attending to her, and attuning to her, in caring about her, and very interested in listening to her stories. And that actually became a source of healing for her after I decided to become psychologically present, meaning to be open to her story and not worry about simply what was on my mind in the sense of what my model is, whether my tradition of psychotherapy, whether it's working with her. Sometimes we just need to be very resourceful. The kind of tools that we have may not be useful, but we just need to kind of listen to what they're struggling with, and that's what we call psychological presence. That's the second level of presence. Third is emotional presence, that of understanding, compassion, acceptance, empathy, and unconditional positive regard. And for those people who perhaps have studied Carl Rogers' client-centered therapy, you will notice the empathy or accurate empathy, unconditional positive regard, and also that of genuineness will be the three most important elements, in fact, what he considered to be sufficient conditions for their clients to change. Same thing, when we work with our clients, even when we work with our refugees, when we work with our new immigrants, there will be, I would say, a whole lot of, in our relationship with them, if we could embody empathy, unconditional positive regard, and acceptance, it makes our job and our work and our working with them a lot more effective and easy. And then emotional presence may then be responding or providing intervention or empathic response in resonance to what the client may be sharing. Now, I do not know, and I believe not, that you are required in your work to provide counseling, but maybe a light form of counseling, but still this kind of emotional presence will be useful in your work with them. The fourth is transpersonal presence. Now that's very interesting because transpersonal meaning there's something beyond the boundaries of ourself. And then the body simply becomes a vessel, an embodiment, or a container for the soul, for our spirit of sorts. It in fact comes into contact with deeper connection between therapist and client, or between the caregiver versus, say, the care receiver. And it is very interesting if you allow yourself to come into even working with your clients, even they may be your scope of work is simply to helping them to settle. But if you allow yourself to come into deeper contact between yourself and the other who are receiving your care, it is actually a very powerful healing experience, not only for the other, not for the immigrants, not for the refugee, but also for yourself. It brings forth a very powerful form of positive experience within yourself. And in fact, that powerful healing experience, in fact, will, well, let's put it this way, it'll make us live longer. That powerful healing experience will promote our immune system. We get sick less. And in fact, I would say there are some people who continue to wonder, hey, Dr. Yeung, why do you always look so young? Well, not only do I got the right last name because I will always be young, but I also practice in a mode of way of working with other people in a deep contact as well. So therefore, this potentially could be the secret not only to longevity, to always keeping young, if we allow ourselves to be in transpersonal presence, not only in deeper contact with our care receiver, but somehow in deeper contact with the universe at large. Hence what we call deeper intuition, that we become became aware of vitality, enhanced sensation, and perception within us. It's a very, very powerful form. Now, therapeutic presence there, I believe, is all of the above that that Sherry, it was actually not Greenberg and Jeller, it was Jeller and Greenberg, pardon me. So therapeutic presence is all of the above, including that physical presence, psychological presence, and emotional presence, and then transpersonal presence. It is actually the state of having one's whole self in the encounter with a client. In our case, with the people that we serve, that we work with, by being completely in the moment on a multiplicity of levels, physically, emotionally, cognitively, and spiritually. Those are four of the presence that Jeller and Sherry and Leslie speaking about in their book, Therapeutic Presence. But there's one more presence. That one more presence that I am speaking to you about, that I'm mindful of, is actually what we now call contemplative presence. Now, contemplative presence actually is defined by Gerald May, himself a psychiatrist now, who has since passed on. He spoke about contemplative presence as an open, panoramic, like we can see, it has the ability to see widely, and an all-embracing awareness. But it is really this all-embracing awareness brought into the fullness of living and action, an attitude of the heart, and a quality of presence rather than just a state of consciousness. It turns from a state to a trait. What is a state? A state, well, we think of, let's say, water. Water can have three states. Water could be in I would say, with, it's like ice. It's actually a solid state. It could be a fluid state, or it could be a particle state when it is in steam. So, but at its core, it is still water molecules, at the same time being, let's put it this way, changed into different states because of environmental differences, but at its core, it is still water molecules. We can use that as a metaphor for trait. What do I mean by that? Or what do we mean then? Again, the core of contemplative presence is no longer just a thing that we do. It becomes a state of being. It becomes the person you are. And what happens is that whenever you walk around in encountering with other people, if you are in that particular, if you embody that trait of contemplative presence, and yes, we need to practice, and more practices, then it is become a state of being, and you will radiate and emulate and yeah, and you will radiate that presence from within you, and other people will feel that presence coming from you. And it in itself, once more, without having to do anything in a particular time, just because you're walking around in a being in contemplative presence, you would radiate that sense of care, radiate that sense of compassion, radiate that sense of unconditional positive regard. And again, because it's already now a state of being, it actually promotes a sense of health within yourself, hence the care of self, promotes the sense of better immune function, promote a better sense of longevity, and promote a better and very enriched sense of well-being, or a sense of flourishing. And as such, and in fact, it is the antidote to burnout if we allow ourselves to embody that state of mind, what we call contemplative presence. Now, we spoke about the why of contemplative presence, the reason being we need to deal with the problem of the fishbowl problem, meaning that the particular society, the particular historical period of time, the particular culture, and even the civilization that we are dealing with now is with us as a self of being at risk of fragmenting, at risk of being commodified, at risk of uncertainty, and at risk of, let me just remind myself, and at risk of feeling powerless. All of this is why we're dealing with this, why we're talking about this at all. Yes, and we spoke about the 5 kinds of power, but there's also the 6th kind. The power that we hope to embody is that of nutrient, integrative, and even inspirational power. But a lot of times I find it is very challenging because the culture that we are living in at this present moment sometimes coercing us into competition, to manipulation, and probably even exploitation. So we are always in that dialectical tension. And then at the same time, we can then also learn to develop that particular integrative or nutrient and even inspirational power by developing a sense of presence, that sense of being open, being with not only the physical level, the psychological level, the emotional level, the transpersonal level, and also the therapeutic level, but there's also the contemplative level that we spoke about. That is the what of contemplative presence. That is the what of the power that we're speaking about. And then it goes into the how. Well, how then do we develop this? Especially in encountering this challenge that we have on a daily basis. And here is what we can do the how by practicing loving kindness meditation. And I have already given you the source down below in loving kindness and where this particular YouTube clip is coming from. And what we can do at this present moment is actually about a 15-minute practice that you and I could both share, could also experience. So not only are we talking about head knowledge, we are also talking about body knowledge. Not only are we talking about just something on a cognitive level, we're talking about something in the experiential level. And if we practice it enough, and if it is because it is an experience, it goes into the core of who we are. In fact, studies have shown people who practices meditation have brain changes. It is in the area of the brain which looks like an island or hidden, what we call the insular cortex. Insula meaning the Latin word for being an island. We do functional MRI scans on these individuals, and we notice that the particular area called the insula is actually much more thick. The brain actually functions very much like our muscle in the body, and I would like to say that our tech person, David, if you had a chance to look at him, you actually see muscle bulking in his biceps. Even though he's wearing clothes, you could actually see his pectoral major. So I would believe that he actually has a six-pack on his abdomen. Six-pack not being beer, but six-pack being very, I would say, strong muscles. And of course, he was doing. He has I was told that he actually has a practice of gym. He goes to gym to exercise. And the brain functions very much like an exercise of the muscle. The more you lift weights, the more, in fact, you have the biceps getting bulky. In Chinese, we call that a mouse in the biceps. So the brain functions like that, the same thing. So we're actually doing mental gym when we're doing loving kindness meditation, meaning that because there is a formula in brain science, we call it the neurons that fire together, wire together, survive together, meaning that the brain cells, the brain neurons that fire together when we practice, let's say, meditation, they will create more neurons, just like creating more muscle fibers, and they will survive together. So we get just like we get the benefits of lifting weights, we get the benefits of doing a mental gym. This is what we call helping our brains. I mean, including that of the caregiver, the self, all of our colleagues here. What we call neuroplasticity. We actually help to grow more brain cells. And also we get to experience what it is in loving kindness. And this is only about a 15 to 16 minute meditation. And so if I may invite you at this present moment, once more, to find a comfortable place to sit down, perhaps allowing both feet on the ground, and noticing the contact between your back and the chair. Try not to slouch, keeping your back somewhat straight but not stiff. And you could do this practice with your eyes opened or closed. When you do this with open eyes, you will be able to see a meditative segment that will be in this meditation that's designed to help us to calm ourselves, not to distract us visually. So feel free to have your eyes being opened and listen to the meditation. And then you could also draw your attention inwardly. By that I mean as you take a big breath in, noticing how your belly may expand, and with each out breath, that your belly may contract. And notice the sense of tightness or sense of looseness. Notice the sense of closing down or opening up in your chest and your belly, and create that space inside as you practice this loving kindness meditation, or metta, which is the most, I would say, the most powerful healing force as we know it in this universe.
Allow yourself to get comfortable. Relax your shoulders. Relax your eyes. Relax your jaw. You can be seated or lying down for this meditation. Today we'll be exploring metta, or loving kindness. Through this metta meditation, we'll be exploring the cultivation of feelings of compassion, feelings of loving kindness for yourself and for others. So allow yourself to relax and notice how your breath feels right now. Simply watch your breath. Notice the texture of your breathing. Notice the rate of your breathing. Notice the depth of your breathing. There's no need to change it. Simply observe. And bring your awareness to your chest, to your heart. Place your awareness there as you continue to watch your breath. Notice what it feels like to breathe into your chest, to breathe into your heart. Simply place all of your awareness right there in the center of your chest. Now slowly and silently, repeat this phrase in your mind. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. Continue to repeat these words in your mind and in your heart. Notice any subtle changes that occur in how you feel. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. Continue to breathe into your heart. Continue to repeat those words. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. Now bring into your awareness a person who you love dearly. Notice who comes to mind. And keeping an image of this person in your mind's eye, silently repeat these words. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Notice how you feel in your chest as you continue repeating those words. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Bring into your mind more of your loved ones, offering them that same message, that same prayer. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Notice how you feel right now. Bring into your awareness people who you would consider acquaintances. Bring their image into your mind's eye. And again, repeat these words. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Notice how you feel as you extend loving kindness to acquaintances. Think of someone you have conflict with. Picture this person in your mind's eye. And see if you can offer this person the same loving kindness that you've offered to others. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Notice how this feels to offer feelings of loving kindness to someone with whom you have conflict. Let's expand this feeling another step further. Picture the entire human race, male and female, all nations, all cultures, all races, all colors of skin, all sexual orientations, all ages, all heights and weights, all people, all human beings. May we be happy. May we be well. May we be comfortable and at peace. May we be happy. May we be well. May we be comfortable and at peace. Notice how you feel in your heart right now. Notice what is present for you. Spend the next few moments feeling this, noticing this, simply experiencing this feeling right here. Continue to breathe into your heart. Continue to focus your awareness right there in the center of your chest. I invite you to open your eyes, carrying this feeling of loving kindness within you. Begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Notice how you feel in your body right now. Notice what's present. Carry this feeling of loving kindness with you. Carry this feeling of loving kindness as you interact with others today. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Blessings.
If we can now then draw our attention back to cyberspace and between us, and I was thinking, of course, this particular video you could download, and you can go on YouTube, follow that particular link, and you will be able to find this video. It is relatively short, 15 minutes. There are longer ones, but generally those are much more for avid and experienced practitioners. I would say a 15-minute loving kindness meditation is just the right size, right dose, the right chewable amount and digestible amount that we could practice on a frequent basis. Now, you may wonder, in fact, whether it will be useful to the new clients now, the new immigrants. The challenge is that sometimes they may not be, they may not necessarily know the language, or they may not necessarily have the access to such, advanced technology. So, of which then, if you would start to practice it yourself and noticing the secrets inside, it's really in that 4 phrases and the ability to relax ourselves to arrive at the present state of mind, then you may be able to use your own language, what I call language near experience. Language near meaning that of matching the same culture that the individual has with you, and hopefully that you would be able to record a very similar meditation for them. It is actually very simple to do. At the same time, it's ridiculously difficult. Ridiculously difficult because it needs to be a frequent practice. By that I mean, that would be nice if we could do. It's just like exercising. If we could do what the current recommendation for healthy exercise, it's about 150 minutes per week of exercise. Now, if we could do the same, actually, for mindfulness meditation, meaning that, or loving kindness meditation, if we could do that 15 to 20 minutes a day, that would be very useful. But the sense of persistence is challenging, but we are dealing with unfortunately, we're dealing with an invisible culture whereby it is injecting chaos into us and contaminating us and infecting us with fragmentation, with powerlessness, with uncertainty, and also with the sense of commodification, then it is as actually an urgent need for us to practice that as an antidote to the toxins or the poisons that we are swimming in on a daily basis. Now, for those who are much more tech savvy, by that I mean not only our colleagues here, but also clients that may be able to access, let's say, an online, I would say, internet. There is actually free mindfulness meditation, free guided audio in the University of Southern California, the Center for Mindfulness. They have these free guided audios. Once you click into this link, there's at least 20 guided audios ranging from body scans, loving kindness meditation, sitting meditation, wise meditation, all in various links. Some could be as short as 5 minutes. The medium lengths are the 15 minutes one, and of course the longer ones are the 50 minutes or 45 minutes meditation. Those are much more for the experienced practitioner that you could have access to. That's a resource for yourself, for self-use, and also for you to prescribe and give it to the people that we serve. Now, there's one final thought here as this particular webinar is drawing to a close, that it's a quote by William Butler Yeats. I believe he's also another Nobel Prize winner in literature. He spoke about we can make our minds so like still water that beings gather about us that they may see. It may be their own images, and so live for a moment with a clearer and perhaps even for a fiercer life because of our quiet. And yes, loving kindness meditation will be the medium whereby we could practice that sense of quiet. And the sense of quiet, if we can embody them, and we could also meet our clients in that kind of mindset, in that state of mind, it actually will help them to heal them. And you do not have to be a therapist. You do not have to be a physician. It could be any caregiver. And certainly a settlement worker such as yourself is one, and you could help your clients, your consumers, to live much more flourishing and healthy and happy life as they settle in Toronto, as they settle in Canada. So on that note, I am going to close our meeting today. And I would like to thank all of you for being here, taking your time, your busy schedule, to attend this meeting, and looking forward probably to meet with you again in the future. So I thank you.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.